Gary Gensler went on CNBC's Squawk Box this morning and said crypto investors need better protection in a space that is significantly non-compliant. He called for crypto companies to cooperate with the SEC and added that investors around the globe are getting hurt. The SEC began a probe into FTX.com's handling of customer funds, according to an unnamed source and reported by Reuters. This, while known SEC opponent Congressman Tom Emmer tweeted this morning, Gary Gensler runs to the media while reports to my office alleged he was helping SBF and FTX work on loopholes. Now, these reports he's referring to have not been made public, and he has not provided any proof to back up this statement. So a lot to unpack here on the regulatory front. Wendy, I'm kicking it off to you. What do you make of all of this?
There's so much I want to say, but I have to figure out how to say it the right way. I will say that I do believe Mr. Tom 99% what he's saying. And I am working with some nonprofit organizations trying to push positive crypto regulation on the back end. DCTA, you guys are more than welcome to check them out. I'm not receiving any compensation from them, just trying to help push positive regulation because we need it. But I really think that it's important that Gary Gensler is getting called out for this, because what has Gary been doing the last couple of years? We see people like Elizabeth Warren coming out that's also confusing FTX International with FTX US. We're seeing all this misinformation being put out, and they're just screaming for more regulation regarding the crypto industry. Does the crypto industry need regulation? It does need regulation, but at the same time, it does need to be able to foster growth, to foster revenue, to foster job creation, to foster tech, to foster all of those things. And we haven't seen any good regulation come out from the SEC or the CFTC at this point. So a lot of what's happening is pretty scary. And I do think that Gary Gensler does need to, answer to that. And we need to ask him, we're paying his salary. We need to ask why he was doing what he was doing and what was happening behind the scenes. And why don't we have any sort of guidelines to help create a safe place for people to continue to innovate? Last thing I want to say is that code is language and it should be protected under free speech.
Never let a crisis go to waste. Winston Churchill said that, but Gary Gensler is living that life right now. And this is a damn good crisis in which to make a statement about consumer protection. And he's doing so. Even though FTX.com, again, the international one, it's offshore, it's not the US one, even though it doesn't fall within US regulatory purview, it's certainly a moment for Gary Gensler to sound the alarm about crypto as it relates to consumer protections. And I think it would makes a ton of sense that he would rush to get out there and sort of be involved in this narrative as he looks to rein in some of the excesses of the crypto industry. Whether that's good or bad, I will not say, but it certainly makes sense that given the size of this blow up, that he would be front and center trying to advance this narrative that crypto needs more regulation in the US to protect investors from instances such as this, where these giant black boxes, these centralized trading intermediaries, take on these risky things that ultimately lead to catastrophic failure. And I think this does not help the industry's cause, right? This does not help the industry's case that it can advance innovation in a responsible manner if ultimately sort of the hubris and the greed involved here gets the worst of these firms and ultimately leads to people having funds frozen on these exchanges, potentially some of whom are US based and maybe using a VPN to access what they otherwise wouldn't be able to access. So it makes sense that Gary's out here ringing the bell on consumer protections. Going to be interesting to see if anyone on the regulatory side advances this into something that turns into law one day in Capitol Hill.
Yeah, Zach, I think it makes sense, right? The size of those holes on the balance sheet keep getting bigger. So it makes sense that we have the regulators out here front and center calling for regulation. I think if a centralized exchange is going to act like a bank, then maybe they should be held to the same standards as banks. Not saying that the banks are held to great standards, but maybe they should be regulated. And, Wendy, to what you were saying yesterday, if out of this we get regulation where centralized exchanges have to prove that they have enough funds to back up consumer investments, I think that's a good thing. And Zach, to what you were saying yesterday, I think that this is just another push towards DeFi, right? There are options that are not centralized exchanges. I think people are starting to see some of the holdups with centralized exchanges. And maybe this is going to push the industry in the direction that it has been trucking along all this time. And so maybe it is the push we need, and maybe we will get to a truly decentralized future where all of the intermediaries and all of this opaqueness is gone, and we can just see what's happening because it's fully transparent. What a life that would be.
It would be crazy. Real-time audit, like regulators could embrace that, like real-time audit and understanding of what's going on here and what risk parameters are being undertaken by these giant trading firms. That'd be crazy. One day, who knows? Wendy, what do you think?
Yeah, but if everybody's super transparent, then it's going to put pressure on the public servants to be very transparent. We're going to know exactly where they're spending their money and how much they are spending for what services.
A lot of things need to change to get there. So sad.
Speaking of transparency, you can see the FTX international withdrawals are processing right now. There's some interesting chatter about the nature of those withdrawals, so check that out if you want to see that in real time. But again, still here today, all eyes on the FTX saga. Binance a little bit out of the picture now, unlike yesterday. But what is going to happen with FTX as it careens toward potential bankruptcy? Man, it is crazy. It is crazy out there.